everybody, and welcome to my channel. In these videos, I'm going to be giving you guys some advice on applying to medical school and just giving you an overview of the application process. In this first video, we'll be talking about what courses you should be taking during undergraduate to prepare for applying to med school and for taking the MCAT. So in this series of videos, we'll be talking about what you should be doing in undergrad, how to study for and take the MCAT, the primary and secondary applications, and interviews. Our next video will be on recommended extracurriculars to be doing during undergrad, so be sure to check that out. So we'll start with the courses that I recommend taking before doing the MCAT. I've split these up into two categories. Highly recommended are the courses that I think will be very helpful for you as you're studying, and I advise you do your best to get these in before your MCAT. So these include a year of general chemistry and a year of introductory biology, also a year of organic chemistry and a year of physics. And then I think a semester each of biochemistry and of introductory psychology will give you a great science foundation to do well on the MCAT. So again, for the highly recommended category, I think you should do your best to get these in before your MCAT, but it's not necessarily a requirement for you to do well. For example, I didn't take a biochemistry course before I took my MCAT, and it turned out just fine, but I did have to put in the extra work to understand biochemistry as I was studying. So don't fret if you can't get these courses in, but do your best to do that. The recommended category includes courses that I don't think are necessary at all for you to do well on the MCAT, but will certainly help you along the way as you're studying. So these include any sort of physiology or anatomy course, and a genetics or another upper-level biology course. And I think that these will be helpful to give you a more advanced understanding of life science, which I think will be helpful for some of the more complicated MCAT questions in the bio section. And then I think a math course like statistics or calculus will be helpful for those problems that involve doing math, like physics or chemistry. And then finally, a sociology course might be helpful as you're trying to understand the psych and soc portion of the MCAT. So none of these recommended courses are required at all for you to do well on the MCAT. But again, I think they would be very helpful for you if you have the time to get them in. But I would say prioritize getting those highly recommended courses done first, and then take the recommended courses if you have the time. So this next section is courses that are recommended for applying to medical school. There are some schools that require certain courses for you to have taken before you can apply there. But a lot of schools just recommend that you have certain courses. So this information is taken from what schools typically require, if they require anything, and what they typically recommend. Again, I've split this up into highly recommended and recommended. So these are the highly recommended courses, and these are the courses that if schools require you to have taken something, it is usually one of these. So I think you should do your best during undergrad to get these courses in, and that will give you the best chance of having all of the courses that any school might require you to have. So a lot of these are the same as those that I highly recommended for the MCAT. So again, general chemistry, general biology, physics, and organic chemistry. A year of all of those, as well as a semester of biochemistry, and on top of that, I recommend a semester of statistics. These 6 on the left are the courses that are usually required when med schools require any courses. So these are your priority to get done. On the right are courses that are less commonly required by medical schools but can be. So the first is advanced biology courses, which I recommend at least one semester of. This can be satisfied by tons of different classes like genetics or cell biology. I also recommend 2 semesters of English courses. A lot of schools will accept courses considered writing intensive to be English courses as well. But all schools have different policies on that. And then I recommend 2 behavioral science or social science courses. All schools have different definitions of this, but it generally includes psychology, sociology, and anthropology. And then you should try to take at least 1 semester of a humanities course. These can include English, but I recommend trying to get in other humanities also. This can be things like fine arts, philosophy, religion, or foreign language courses. So these are all of the courses that I have seen to be required by med schools, but it's not all-encompassing. Sometimes there are schools that require some really weird courses. So definitely, if you're interested in a specific school, check out their website and make sure that you do have all of their required courses. Also, a reminder to keep track of credit hours. A lot of schools consider a semester to be 3 credit hours if the course doesn't have a lab, and 4 credit hours per semester if there is a lab included. So for example, a year of general chemistry with lab would be 8 credit hours. This can get confusing because some medical schools say that a year is only 6 credit hours. Others say that it's 8, and some don't specify credit hours at all, and they just say, have a year of this course. I'll show you some of the school requirements in a minute, so that might make some more sense. But I recommend making sure you have 8 credit hours for each of your years of general bio, gen chem, organic chem, and physics. You'll definitely want to check your transcript to see how many credit hours each course is worth, because some undergraduate schools only give you 3 credit hours per course. And if that's the case, you might need to take actually a year and a half of, say, general biology in order to get to that 8-hour credit limit. So definitely pay attention to that. Okay, so these are the courses that I recommend to take before applying because schools tend to like that you have them, but very few medical schools, if any, require that you have these courses. So any physiology or anatomy courses are always good, as well as calculus and computer science. Taking a foreign language, especially if you're proficient in it, is a huge plus, especially Spanish or another language that you could potentially need to use with patients. And then any extra courses in behavioral sciences, humanities, or any more advanced science courses are always good to have as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head to MSAR. This is the Medical School Admissions Requirements. You get this through AMCAS. AMCAS is the company through which you're going to do your MCAT, where you will apply if you're applying to MD schools, and you can also get this application. You do have to pay for it, but I really recommend this, especially when you're trying to pick schools. It gives you information about all of the MD schools in the United States and also in Puerto Rico and places close by. And it does have a few osteopathic schools as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this first school here. So when you're trying to choose schools, I really recommend this because it gives you all of the information that you might need to understand what the school has. So for example, median MCAT, really important, median GPA, tuition, and then it gives you all sorts of information on the curriculum, on the location, anything you could possibly need to know about a school is on this application. We'll go into this in more detail in a later video, but what I want to do is show you the course section. So I'm going to scroll down to there. Here it is. So it lists all of these courses here, and it tells you whether it's required or recommended, whether you need a lab with it, and how many credit hours. So for example, for this school, it requires 6 credit hours of biology with lab, 6 credit hours of inorganic chemistry, which is just your general chemistry, 6 credit hours of organic, and 6 credit hours of physics. This is pretty typical to require those 4 courses. And as you see, this is only 6 credit hours for a year of those courses for this school. So we're going to check out a different school. So let's go to Albert Einstein here. I'm going to scroll down to the courses. Okay, so this one is a lot different. So you can see they require 8 credit hours of behavioral sciences, recommend biochemistry, require 8 credit hours of biology. Remember, the previous school only required 6 credit hours. So this is what I'm talking about in that some schools consider a year to be 6 credit hours and some consider them to be 8. So that's why you need to keep track of all of your credit hours. And you can scroll down and see sometimes they recommend certain courses like calculus, English. That means that you can apply to those schools without having taken those courses, but they prefer people who have taken those courses. You can scroll down and see all that's required. Again, 8 credit hours of Gen Chem, 8 credit hours of organic chemistry, and 8 of physics. So this is why you need to keep track of your credit hours and make sure that you're on track for that. Okay, so I just wanted to mention briefly a few other details about undergrad that med schools are looking at. First of all, a lot of people ask what you should major in. And really your major doesn't necessarily matter. For the most part, schools are only concerned with you getting in all of your science courses. If you can do all of your required courses while having a non-science major, that's great. That shows that you have time management skills and that you're well-rounded. From what I've seen, about 75% of med school students were science majors, but that varies on the school. So overall, major doesn't have a huge effect on your application. It just, the courses that you take are what matters. The school that you go to in undergrad also doesn't really matter either. You might find a few schools, maybe the Ivies, that prefer kids who went to Ivies. For example, an A at an Ivy might mean a little bit more than an A at maybe a community college. That might be the case for some schools, but overall I think that most schools won't discriminate based on the type of school you went to. So don't worry about that. As for GPA, this definitely does matter, probably second only to your MCAT score. The average GPA of matriculants to med schools in 2020 to 2021 was 3.73. If your GPA is lower than that, it's not a deal breaker by any means. You can make up for that with an upward trajectory, meaning that your GPA improves from your freshman year to senior year. A great MCAT score can also make up for a lower GPA. There may be schools that have a GPA cutoff, meaning that they won't accept anyone under a certain GPA, but those are almost never made public, so you really never get to know that. And when you apply, just so you know, they split your GPA into science and non-science, so they can see both of those. Science average is 3.66 and non-science is 3.82. I'm going to include my source on that in the description, and that source also has data on MCAT averages, so that might be helpful if you want to look at that. Okay guys, that is all that I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any questions or any suggestions for future videos, you can comment below the video, and I'll also leave my email here if you guys want to use that for personal questions or just to say hi. I'd love to hear from you. My email is medadvice123@gmail.com. Please don't be afraid to contact me. That is what this channel is for. I really want to meet you guys and help you guys out as best as I can because I know this process can get really complicated and I want to help you guys navigate that. Just for your reference, I am a current applicant. I'm just getting through my interviews right now, so that's where I'm at if you want to ask about my experience. And just a reminder that my next video will be on extracurriculars to take during undergrad, so be sure to check that out and subscribe if you want to know when that comes out. Okay, bye everyone. Thanks for watching.